Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. First things first, if you wouldn't mind giving me a like and a subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. You can probably see behind me that all of the yard is barricaded up with trailers and God knows what else, because today is the first day of our TB test. We are doing a whole herd TB test this week and we've got a lot going on one way or another. It's gonna be really busy and I hope you enjoy it. You can tell that it's the first morning of TB testing. We're trying to get done, we're trying to be early. It's now about 7:45. We started early this morning because we start TB testing at 9 and we need to get breakfast and things. And the Mikhail straw shredder has jumped the sprocket on that side so that the slats aren't running level, so essentially they won't go round. Normally the kind of job we'd do ourselves, but we're gonna have to get someone in to do that today because we're just gonna have no time to get around to it. There's only me and Dad here, so we're going to be busy. Luckily, we had fed most of the cattle, so we've only got to put a round bale in a couple of the cattle yards. So fortunately, it's not too much of a big deal. First thing that we do is we will take all the bulls up and put them up the top because they're the most awkward, the hardest work. And then we work our way around. We then go to doing all the young stock and before we do on the cows, because we want to get all of the hard work done first. And then because cows are a bit easier, as you get more tired, it just gets easier to do them. One thing to note, we've actually started using sharp sand on the floor rather than straw because we think it'll just be better for them, stop them slipping. They still slipped on the straw a little bit and we're having a bit of trouble with the straw getting underneath the cattle crush and holding the weights up on the weigh cells. So hoping that that stuff is just a little bit better. Now all the bulls are in, they're in the back. We're gonna TB test them first. And then as we do all the young stock, we're gonna weigh everything and trim tails and things like that as well, because on the first day it's a little bit slower because we have to inject and we have to measure every animal and record it all. Whereas the second day we only have to read and measure any of the lumps. So that's a lot faster on the second day. So we'll do all of the hard work today, all of the weighing, everything else. So it should be good because essentially we're gonna get more data. The more data we've got, the better we can farm. Another thing we do on the first day is we always keep an eye out for any lost ear tags, and then we'll write all of those down and replace them on the second day. Right, it's about 12 o'clock, I think, and we've got all the young stock done, which is good. We've just got blue steers and heifers to do, which are a bit older, should be a bit easier. We've got eight fat cattle left to do, and then all the cows. So hopefully, if we can get these blue ones done for lunchtime, we can have an easy afternoon. That is the last of the younger stock, the smaller stuff done, which is good. Now we're on to cows. We've just had a bit of dinner and Sarah the vet says we've got about 150 left, something like that, which should be about right. We've got 8 fat heifers to do and then the cows, so hopefully we shouldn't be too late done. And just like that, day one of TB testing is over, thank God. It has been an absolute slog, as it always is. I've had to have every animal through the crush, just about 300, just shy of 300 actually, because we sold some fat cattle last week. But it's been mad. We've still got loads of feeding and that to do. So what I'm gonna do is crack on with that now, and then in the morning, I'll give you a bit of an overview of how TB testing works and what our situation is, as well as like our history with TB and where we are placed and in regards to like how often we have to test and so on and so forth. So I'll see you all in the morning. And we're back. It's the morning after the night before, and I slept like an absolute baby last night. I was knackered. Feeling good this morning though. Now, I said that I would give a bit of an overview of the farm's TB history and how we are and where we're placed in the UK, so on and so forth. So that's what I'm gonna do now. We have never suffered with TB on our farm, of which I'm very grateful, because it is not a disease that is very nice to deal with. You hear a lot about it in the farming press, and I kind of understand how people feel, because I can imagine it's not very nice to spend a lot of your time building up your livestock and getting the animals that you want on your farm, to have them taken away by a disease, especially in a test that's not 100% accurate. It's only about 76% accurate, something like that. But it is the best test we've got, so I suppose we have to run with it and just deal with the consequences. Our farm lies in what they call an edge area. So I'll put a map up somewhere on the screen, and you'll see we're in one of the yellow sectors. And one of the yellow sectors means that we test every 12 months, and we have to pre-movement test all of our animals if they're going to any other farms or to market, but not if they're going direct to slaughter. If you're in the black area, which we're very close to, because Warwickshire is not too far from us here, the black areas have the same rules, but they have to test every 6 months. The blue area is where TB is a really high risk, and they're the same as the black areas as far as their testing rules are concerned. But the green areas, that's what's considered low risk. So if you go the other side of our county and go to Lincolnshire, for example, that's a low risk area, partly because it's more arable than what we have. As you go sort of more southwest, you get more livestock. But in those low risk areas, you have to test once every 4 years, and you do not have to pre-movement test any of your animals, which I kind of don't agree with. I would rather the whole country was at least on the same level as us, but I think it would be nice if those 4 yearly testing areas still had to pre-movement test. We will always ask anyone we buy livestock from, if they're in a 4 yearly testing area, to pre-movement test any livestock we buy, and we won't buy it unless they do it. And I think that's something that probably needs to change in the rules, but I don't make the rules up, so it's not up to me. For those of you who have never seen TB testing before, what you have noticed is that Sarah trims 2 patches on the neck of an animal, and that's so that she can get the calipers and take a really accurate measuring of the skin thickness in those 2 areas. She'll then inject 2 different injections, one on the top and one on the bottom. And those 2 injections are a avian tuberculin and a bovine tuberculin, and the avian being the control, and then obviously the bovine being the one we're looking for. If the animal is a reactor, it has to go to slaughter, where they'll do a autopsy, or I think it's a necropsy for animals, but not that that matters. They'll cut it up and they'll check for any lesions that are related to TB. But regardless of that, whether they find lesions or not, your farm will get placed on a restriction. And what that means is that you then have to do tests every 60 days until you get 2 consecutive clear tests. And they tighten the parameters at which the lumps relate. So essentially, in order to try and find more TB within your herd, I suppose the idea is that they're trying to get ahead of it rather than chase the tail of it, which makes sense, but it's tough on the farmer. It's day 2 of TB testing, Thursday morning, which means that we have Sarah coming to read any of the results from the tuberculin injections. She will take her calipers and she will measure any of the lumps and put them into her computer system, and that will tell her whether we do or do not have TB. We haven't had an issue with it before, but we never know what's around the corner, and it is getting worse across the whole of the UK, especially in our area. So we are hoping things go well. We're also going to be doing some blood tests. We're going to test for BVD, but we're also going to do metabolic profiling of our cows to make sure that they have got all the right vitamins and minerals and nutrients that they need before we start calving. And if they haven't, we can then use that information to do something about it. So let's crack on. So what do you think? Did we pass or did we fail? Well, for the first time ever, we actually failed. We had 2 reactors and 2 inconclusive reactors. An inconclusive reactor is what a lot of people will call a false positive or something like that. And essentially it's where you have the certain parameters in which you have to test, and it's very, very borderline within those parameters. And that means that those animals will be retested in 60 days, and usually the case will be that they don't actually have TB. When we do them, retest them, they're fine. The reactors, however, they've got it. What happens now is we get contacted by the APHA, which is the Animal and Plant Health Authority, and they will come and collect the animals within the next sort of 5 or 7 days and take them direct to slaughter. But then they'll also do an autopsy, necropsy, whatever, and see whether there is any lesions of TB. They're slaughtered just to stop the spread within the herd. But also, our herd now gets put on a 60-day testing regime. So we have to test the whole herd again every 60 days until we have 2 clear consecutive tests. But they also narrow the parameters in which we can, in which the test is read. So there is a couple of animals within the herd that passed today, but at the tighter parameters wouldn't pass. So that's something to be aware of when we move forward. But it's a journey we're just gonna have to go on. It's something that we knew would one day come. It's inevitable. The whole situation with TB is getting worse. I'll actually stick a map on here somewhere so you can have a look at it, but you'll see how the whole, over time, things are getting worse. And I think that map finishes at 2010 as well. So it's just got so much worse in the last 10 years again. And we're just gonna have to deal with it. It's the way you look at it. It might be a positive. There could be something come out of this that we don't know about. It's gonna be tough, but it's farming. It's always tough. We have looked through our records whilst we had a little bit of lunch, and we found that both of the reactors and one of the inconclusive reactors were in the same group at our ground at Thornton, which is quite interesting. But it's something we're gonna have to look at and see how we can potentially manage that going forward. But it is really a bit of a kick in the teeth one way or another, and we just have to see how things go, and hopefully we'll get through this all right. There's a lot of people on this journey within the UK, a lot of cattle farmers, whether it's beef or dairy or whatever, and yeah, it's one of them things. It's now Friday morning, and I don't normally do any filming on a Friday morning, but I wanted to bring something up. Between day 1 and day 2 of TB testing, I went to the AHDB Agri Leader Conference, and it was Tuesday afternoon, an evening meal and an after dinner speaker, and then Wednesday morning. And while I was there, it was probably one of the best things that I have ever done within agriculture, but off of the farm. It was absolutely incredible. And one of the talkers they had, who came to speak to us all, was a guy called Ben Akers. Now, Ben Akers lost one of his best friends to mental health and suicide, and he started something called Talk Club. Now, the first rule of Talk Club is that you talk about Talk Club. And to get people to open up, he decided to ask them, when asking, how are you? Rather than just stop at that point, he said, how are you out of 10? So something I want to do is I want to introduce that into my videos. So I'm going to ask people, starting today, to give me a number and stick it in the comments. How are you out of 10? And if you've got some other comment to write, put your number and then write the rest of your comment. Now, I might not be able to help you, but someone else who's reading those comments might read through, and you might get talking, and it might help you out, and it might make you feel better, and it might improve your mood and the way that you feel. For example, yesterday, after we found out that we'd failed our TB test, I felt a little bit lower than I would normally feel. I probably felt like a 6 or 7. But today, you know, I've reflected on that. I think there could be opportunities that come out of this. And generally, I like to hover around an 8, and that's how I feel. I'm an 8 out of 10. Things haven't gone right. I can't be a 10, but things aren't that bad. So I'm not a 4. So I'm an 8. So I ask you, how are you out of 10? And that's it for another video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you wouldn't mind giving me a like and a subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Until next time, have a good one. Look after yourself, stay positive, test negative, whether it's TB or coronavirus, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.